Well, let's now move on to the poem Stonemasons, My Father and Me by the Marathi poet and Dalit activist Namdeo Lakshman Dhasal. Namdeo Dhasal belonged to the Mahar caste, which is one of the marginalized sections in the Indian society. He lived in Maharashtra, close by a colony which was largely occupied by the sex workers, and it's Kamatipura. There was also another colony by name Durga Devi Udyan that was a niche of transgenders. He was fully aware of the problems faced by these marginalized sections. To raise the concerns faced by these sections and to voice their opinions, he, along with his friends Raja Dhale, J.V. Pawar and Arun Kamble, founded the Dalit Panthers movement. Inspired by the teachings of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and the Black Panthers movement in the United States, Dhasal decided to voice his concerns or stand by for these marginalized sections. He also brought out a magazine called Vidroh that largely comprised of the writings of the educated Dalit members. These educated Dalit writers, poets were against the caste system in India. It was in 1975 that he brought out his first issue of poems called Gol Pita, and the poem that is prescribed for study is included in this section. In 1999, he was conferred with the Padma Shri for his relentless service in the society. Let's now move on to the poem. As usual, we read the poem and then we would move on to explain it. Stonemasons give stones dreams to dream. I set a match to fireworks. They say one mustn't step into one's father's life. I do. I scratch his elbows, his armpits. Stonemasons give stones flowers. I play horns and trumpets. I overtake the posse who stands turned to stone by the bodies of 4 women bent like bows. I see my father's bloody drum in the chaos of the dark. I smoke a cheroot and smolder with memories till my lips get burnt. Stonemasons inseminate stones. I count exhausted horses. I harness myself to a cart. I handle my father's corpse. I burn. Stonemasons mix blood with stones. I carry a load of stones. Stonemasons build a stone house. I break heads with stones. The stonemasons are the people who belong to the Vadari caste. They are the Telugu-speaking people who lead a nomadic life, and they are mainly centered in the eastern parts of Maharashtra. So, stonemasons give stones dream to dream. These stonemasons break stones into smaller chips or gravel that is used for building houses and other works made of stone. And these stonemasons give stones dreams to dream. These stones are used to build other people's dreams, to realize other people's dreams. I set a match to fireworks. However, he is unhappy with his life as a stonemason, or being the son of a stonemason. They say one mustn't step into one's father's life. Though many of his father's friends advised him not to take up his father's profession, to go to the city to make a life for himself, he decides to stand by his father. I scratch his elbows, his armpits. He decides to comfort his father, who's had a hard day's labor. He sits by his father. He scratches his elbows and armpits. Stonemasons give stones flowers. The beautiful shapes that are created by these stonemasons, or the beautiful shapes that are formed from the gravel by the stones that are cut, or the stones that are broken down, or the huge boulders that are broken down by the stonemasons. They craft these stones into beautiful shapes. I play horns and trumpets while these stones are being used by others to build their dreams, to fulfill what they want in their lives out of these stones. These stonemasons, they have nothing. And so the poet says that he plays horns and trumpets. He has nothing to do but to play with whatever he has had at hand. He has nothing to dream of, nothing to look forward to. I overtake the Parsi who stands turned to stone. And as the day dawns, he starts his work. Probably he passes by a construction where he sees a Parsi standing. Of course, it's the Parsi who's etched on the stone. And he also passes by the bodies of 4 women. Probably they are the worshippers or the devotees who've come down, who bow their heads down. Bent like bows, I see my father's bloodied rump. He doesn't seem to enjoy the figurines that are etched on the stones. He's reminded of the hard labor that his father would have put in, or the other stonemasons would have put in, to break these big boulders into stones, which are used to build all sorts of things. In the chaos of the dark, I smoke a cheroot. A cheroot is actually, you could say, a form of a bidi, which is made out of a leaf called thana, and it could be lit from both the ends. And so I smoke a cheroot, and as he smokes the cheroot, it's not the fire that comes out, but the smoke that comes out and smolder with memories. The memories that come out, they come out as he smokes the cheroot. As he smokes the cheroot, the smoke along with it carries the memories. And these memories are unpleasant and smolder with memories. The fumes that arise are fumes of anger, of being suppressed, of being oppressed by the society, till my lips get burnt. Towards the end of the cheroot, of course, his lips would naturally get burnt, but here it means the fumes are so strong that ultimately they burn his lips. And these memories are not pleasant, but they are burning memories. Memories unpleasant. Memories that talk of dehumanization. Stonemasons inseminate stones. They infuse new life into stones. I count exhausted horses. And so as he goes by, he counts those exhausted horses. I harness myself to a cart. And now he gets onto a cart. I handle my father's corpse. I burn. And he carries his father's corpse. He seems to burn. His father has left nothing for him except painful memories. As he sees figurines as he passes by, as he smokes the cheroot, nothing comes out of them but the painful memories of every day's hard labor. The stones that are used by the stonemasons fix the lives of others, but they do not infuse new life into these stonemasons' everyday hard labor. Stonemasons mix blood with stones. They don't sweat. It's blood that comes out. I carry a load of stones, and every day this goes on. He carries loads of stones every day. Stonemasons build a stone house. I break heads with stones. They live in utter poverty. He only has these stones as solace, but they offer no solace because these stones break his head. He says, I break heads with stones. The hard labor that he has to put in, the agony that he undergoes in breaking these stones are much greater than the way these stones are used when they are actually broken down and sent to the different places. Nobody recognizes the hard work of these stonemasons. Nobody seems to understand the sufferings that these stonemasons undergo. Their work ultimately is unrewarding. They only get the day's labor. While these stones are used by the others to build forms, shapes, shapes, he has nothing. He gets nothing out of it. This poem speaks for the stonemasons who not only form one of the marginalized sections of the society, but they are not at all rewarded for the hard work they do. It's not the question of how many hours of hard work they do, but the type of work they do. They move on from one place to the other, carrying the children, carrying their belongings. They don't have a house to live in, even though they make stones or they make chips or they make gravels for others to build their houses. This poem is built on several contrasts, and most important is the poet does not want to romanticize the life of the stonemasons. While the first line of every stanza talks of dreams to dream or the stonemasons give stones to flowers, the following lines are in stark contrast to the romantic view that was presented. And hence, the irony of the stonemason's life is that while he supplies stones, or while he gives stones, or while he provides stones to others to build their houses, he himself does not have a house to live in. He himself does not have a proper house to live in. He is not able to make use of any of these stones to fulfill anything in his life. And the poem is replete with violent images of setting match to fireworks. And then you have the father's bloodied rump. He sees his father's bloodied rump, in the sense the hind part of his father's body that is bloodied due to hard labor. And in the chaos of the dark, I smoke a cheroot. Now he smokes a cheroot, but the smoke of the cheroot is symbolic of the harsh memories that come to his mind. As he smokes a cheroot, he doesn't find happiness. But all that comes out is the smoke, or all that comes out is nothing but the fumes of leading a degraded life. He also talks of his father's corpse, and he breaks heads with stones. A lot of violent images are used by the poet to depict the harshness of the reality in the life of the stonemasons. And hence, this poem could be considered a powerful indictment of the caste-ridden society. Whatever has been done by various governments or policies for the upliftment of the marginalized sections, still there are many who suffer, and their suffering goes unrecognized. This poem is a plea for society to change, for society to understand that it's not just one person who's suffering or one particular caste that is suffering, but there are still others who live a nomadic existence, a life that is devoid of any pleasure. This poem is a message to everybody to understand that it's important to realize others' feelings too. With this, we wind up the poem, and we will move on to the poem Without Title by Diane Clancy. Hi again. Let's now move on to the poem Without Title by Diane Clancy. Diane Clancy was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and she's proud of her heritage, but she says she was born in two cultures. One, that of her father, the Native American culture, and the other, her mother, who was of English-German descent. The poem Without Title talks about several issues faced by the Native Americans. It is believed that after the Second World War, the US government had promised the Native Americans decent jobs if they would migrate to the city and leave their lands behind. These lands, of course, would later be taken over by the US government in return for good prospects. However, many families that migrated to the United States later on found themselves in pitiable conditions. Let's see what Diane Clancy has to tell us in the poem Without Title. It's subtitled, For My Father Who Lived Without Ceremony. It's hard, without the buffalo, the shaman, the arrow, but my father went out each day to hunt as though he had them. He worked in the stockyards. All his life he brought us meat. No one marked his first kill. No one sang his buffalo song. Without a vision, he had migrated to the city and went to work in the packing house. When he brought home his horns and hides, my mother said, "Get rid of them." I remember the animal tracks of his car out the drive in snow and mud, the aerial on his old car waving like a bowstring. I remember the silence of his lost power, the red buffalo painted on his chest. Oh, I couldn't see it, but it was there, and in the night heard his buffalo grunts like a snore. Diane Clancy talks about her father, probably this poem is for her father, who lived without ceremony. Now we shall describe what the ceremony is as we read the poem. The poem is dedicated to her father. It's hard, without the buffalo. The buffalo was an integral part of the culture of the Native Americans. It is said that the buffalo was revered. It was a symbol of strength and vitality. The shaman was the spiritual man, you could say, or the person who had certain powers. The Native Americans believed that the shaman had some connection with their native gods. The arrow, which they used to hunt. But my father went out each day to hunt. Ironically, in the United States, her father went out to hunt. But where exactly did he go? As though he had them. So as though he was part of his community, he used to go to hunt. As though the shaman was there, as though he had the arrow, he used to go to hunt. He worked in the stockyard. The stockyard is a place where livestock are kept. All his life he brought us meat. So all his life he has been earning for the family, bringing them food. No one marked his first kill. A very ironical statement. All his life he brought us meat. No one marked his first kill. The first kill refers to the ceremony. Or you could say the first initiation into a community wherein when a man kills a buffalo, he would be conferred with a title and there would be a ceremonial gathering that day. Here, nobody was there to mark his first kill. Even among the Aborigines in Australia, the native Canadians, the Bushmen in Africa, there are certain ceremonies that mark their masculinity or their growing up. Similarly, there is a ceremony here among the Native Americans when a man has his first kill. It's a ceremonial gathering and he's conferred a title. Unfortunately, for the poet's father, who kills animals every day, is not conferred with any title. No one sang his buffalo song. Without a vision, he had migrated to the city. He did not know what to do. He was forced to migrate to the city by the US government and went to work in the packing house. The packing house is a place where animals are slaughtered and the meat is processed and packed. When he brought home his horns and hides, my mother said get rid of them. Of course, after the kill, he used to bring home the horns and hides of the animals. But his mother used to say, get rid of them. Her mother wasn't happy about the kill, but she was reminded of the ceremony that used to take place. And these horns and hides in no way mark or prove his ability to kill an animal. If this had taken place in his home, definitely it would have made a lot of difference. I remember the animal trucks of his car. Now his car is like the buffalo. So I remember the animal tracks of his car. That's a metaphorical usage. Animal tracks of his car. She doesn't say the tire marks of the car. She says the animal marks of his car. Out they drive in snow and mud. The aerial on his old car waving. The aerial refers to the metal antenna, like a bowstring. The way it sways, resembles a bowstring. Again, simile there, like a bowstring. I remember the silence of his lost power. He's lost all his power, his glory. He seems to be living for the sake of living. He seems to be living in a world that has robbed him of his native culture. The red buffalo painted on his chest, probably the remnant of his culture, is only the picture, or you could say the painting of the red buffalo that is painted on his chest. Probably one of the last remnants of his lost glory and power. Oh, I couldn't see it, but it was there. And in the night, heard his buffalo grunts like a snow. Oh, I couldn't see it. Probably she couldn't find anything of the culture except the painting there. The painting doesn't mean anything now. Oh, I couldn't see it, but it was there. It was there. It was there. It was still there. It's just physically there, but it signifies nothing. And in the night, heard his buffalo grunts like a snore. And it was his snore that resembled the grunts of the buffalo. Now, this is a very ironical poem that talks about the loss of culture and the forced assimilation of the natives in America, the loss of identity, the invasion of modern culture, and the way in which it's not only the Native Americans but several aboriginal groups, several tribal groups, several native groups were made to forfeit whatever they had and take up jobs in the city for a paltry amount. Several of these groups, as the Native Americans, live an existence thinking about their lost glory. There are several stories, several autobiographies by Aboriginal writers who talk about the ways in which the government used to harass them, depriving them of all they had. This poem is a crucial reminder of the atrocities committed by every government against the tribals or the aboriginals or the natives, as you would call them. Probably this poem would make one think about what would happen if the same is inflicted on those who rule the country. Is it right to rob others of their culture? Is forced assimilation good? So she raises some crucial questions about the loss of identity, loss of native culture. This poem is replete with metaphors and similes. Of course, the undercurrent, the ironical undercurrent, can never be missed out. She also portrays the plight of her father, how helpless he is, though he is reminded of his past, and he makes every attempt to bring back memories of his past. He just cannot find the power, he just cannot find the force of the culture that he would like to find himself in. He's not able to express his native identity. He's not able to expose his native culture. He's not able to live within his native culture. So he lives a life of depravity. He lives a life of the have-nots, in the sense it's not only that they are poor, but they're robbed of everything, and the most important being their culture. With this, we sure would have to think about several issues faced by almost every section of the society, especially the issues related to cultural loss, alienation, loss of power, faced by, of course, as I said earlier, these different sections, especially the natives of every culture. That's it. And now, in our next session, we will do the poem Anniversaries of War by Yehuda Amichai. Well, let's now move on to the poem Anniversaries of War by the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai. Yehuda Amichai, by general consensus, is the poet laureate of Israel. His poems mainly concentrate on the Holocaust, God, love, idealism, war, national destiny, and so on. His only novel is Not of This Time, Not of This Place, published in 1963, that was later dramatized as a play, Bells and Trains, in 1967. He is also the winner of the prestigious Israel Prize. Let's now move on to the poem Anniversaries of War. Tell Gath, I brought my children to the mound where once I fought battles, so they would understand the things I did do and forgive me for the things I didn't do. The distance between my striding legs and my head grows bigger and I grow smaller. Those days grow away from me. These times grow away from me too, and I'm in the middle without them on this mound with my children. A light afternoon wind blows, but only a few people move in the blowing wind. Bend down a little with the grass and the flowers. Dandelions cover the mound. You could say, as dandelions in multitude. I brought my children to the mound, and we sat there on its back and its side. As in the poem by Shumel Harniget in Spain. Like me, a man of hills and a man of wars, who sang a lullaby to his soldiers before the battle. Yet I did not talk to my heart as he did, but to my children. To the mound we were the resurrection, fleeting like the springtime, eternal like it too. Tel Gath is a place in Israel of historical importance. Tel Gath is considered the birthplace of Goliath, the giant who fought against David. Tel is a site that is made up of several layers, where each layer represents a different phase in the history of the site. Tel Gath is historically important because it had once been an Arab settlement. However, it was abandoned during Israel's War of Independence. The poet here mentions that his children are here with him now on the mound. The mound is a mountain. He remembers this place, Tel Gath, a place where he had fought battles. He has brought them here so that they would understand how important his contribution was to his country as a soldier. However, he asks his children to forgive him for all those things he has not done for his country. The distance between my striding legs and my head grows bigger and I grow smaller. He realizes that he's getting old, and he says that he is not as strong as he was then. Similarly, he is neither physically fit nor mentally strong. Those days grow away from me. Probably he seems to be losing some of the memories that he had. These times grow away from me too. At the same time, now he is experiencing moments that are quite painful. Probably a few moments he does recollect. A few important incidents he does recollect. But they seem to fade away. And I'm in the middle without them on this mount with my children. His fellow soldiers are no longer with him. And now he's standing on this mound with his children, showing them the place where he used to fight battles along with his fellow soldiers. A light afternoon wind blows, and suddenly he finds a light breeze. But only a few people move in the blowing wind. The blowing wind is a reference to the changes that happen in the society. And he says that only a few people can move forward in the direction of the wind that blows. Bend down a little with the grass and the flowers. Dandelions cover the mound. As the wind blows, the grass and the flowers, especially the dandelions, they sway to the movement of the wind. Similarly, he recalls how his friends, his fellow soldiers, have learnt to move ahead with the change in times. You could say, as dandelions in multitude, it's not the story of just one soldier, but many soldiers who have fought different battles at different points of time. They have all learned how to move along with the changing times. I brought my children to the mound and we sat there on its back and its side. Probably they sat at different places of the mountainous region. As in the poem by Shumel Ha-Nagid in Spain. Shumel Ha-Nagid is one of the most important Jewish poets of the Middle Ages. The poet considers Shumel Ha-Nagid to be a greater poet than him, because he often used to write poems about the soldiers, about the experience of the soldiers in the battlefield, so that the soldiers don't feel dejected. There is renewed interest in nationalism. Who sang a lullaby to his soldiers before the battle. He is a person who used to encourage soldiers Unlike the poet who now talks to his children about the war, this poet that he refers to used to inspire other soldiers through his words. Yet, I did not talk to my heart as he did. He talked to his heart in the sense that the verses that he wrote came from his heart and addressed to these soldiers, inspiring them, cherishing whatever they have done. To the mount we were the resurrection, fleeting like the springtime, eternal like it too. And now, when he is sitting on the mountainous region, he feels that life is fleeting and eternal. Just as there is a change in seasons due to the passage of time, the cycles of season that repeat after every period, the children and the poet are nothing but instruments of time, instruments that show that life is short, life is fleeting. There are good and bad moments in life, and they are a part of the resurrection of life. Life is eternal. Though one may say life comes to an end with death, death does not put an end to life. There is always a fresh life or a new life. This is the main theme of the poem. He talks about not only a personal memory, but a collective history. Histories of war, histories of battles long fought. And Telgath is representative of all the changes that have happened over the years. This is why this poem is important. With this, we now move on to the poem Be Drunk by the French poet Charles Baudelaire.